Buddhāvataṃsaka Sutra. Book 39. Entry into the Realm of Reality. Video 8. Muktaka. Then Sadhana, reflecting on that arrayed light of the spell of eloquence of enlightening beings, plunging into that enlightening being's ocean of principles of speech, remembering that enlightening being's mental purification, undertaking that enlightening being's production of inclination to goodness, clarifying that enlightening being's method of perfecting sentient beings, purifying that enlightening being's knowledge of how to take care of sentient beings, making firm that enlightening being's purity of willpower, establishing that enlightening being's power of supreme resolve, clarifying that body of interest of enlightening beings, producing that goodness of intent and thought of enlightening beings, evoking that effort of enlightening beings, equipped with a mind of firm commitment and tireless consistency, with unrelenting energy and determination, imbued with unshakable power of faith, with an indestructible mind, follower of the instructions of all spiritual benefactors, with the perspective of sane knowledge, on the verge of all-sided purity, coursing in the purity of unobstructed knowledge, imbued with the light of the principle of the universal I, illumined by the mystic formulations of all stages of enlightenment, his mind directed to the differentiations of the planes of the cosmos, aware of the pure essence of forms unfixed anywhere, intent on the sphere of absolute unity with no attachment, having purified the medium of powerful knowledge of all ideas, having broken through the boundaries of all spaces, progressively distinguishing the realms of worldly planes, progressively distinguishing the realms of planes of reality, intent on the manifestation of the vision of the varieties of abodes of Buddha, knowing about the distinctions of realms of time, his intellect bearing the radiant wheel of the teaching, his mind illumined by the light of the treasury of concentration of universally radiant knowledge, mentally and physically according with the stage of universal perspective, his mind illumined by the lightning of knowledge of those who realize thusness, realizing the exaltation of faith in omniscience, never without the exaltation of faith in the Buddha teaching, filled with the exaltation of the empowerment of Buddha, illumined by the inherent mental light of all Buddhas, hearing the vow to penetrate all networks of worlds with his own body, intent on putting all universes at once into his own body, made his way gradually to the country Vanarvasan, arriving there after 12 years. He looked for the noble Muktaka, saw him, paid his respects, and said, "Noble one, I have made gains, having met the spiritual benefactor Megha." Why do I say this? Spiritual benefactors are hard to get to see, hard to get to encounter, hard to visit, hard to attend, hard to approach, hard to stay with, hard to be perfected by, hard to associate with. But I have met the spiritual benefactor Megha. Noble one, I have set my mind on supreme perfect enlightenment, to attend all Buddhas, to be on good terms with all Buddhas, to see all Buddhas, to know all Buddhas, to approach equality with all Buddhas, to follow the vows of all Buddhas, to fulfill the vows of all Buddhas, to view the knowledge attained by all Buddhas, to produce all Buddhas in my own body, to accomplish the realization of all Buddhas in my own practice, to directly know the mystical transformations of all Buddhas, to purify the powers and confidences of all Buddhas, to hear all true teachings tirelessly, to listen to and take up the teachings of all Buddhas, to hold the teachings of all Buddhas, to distinguish the teachings of all Buddhas, to preserve the instructions of all Buddhas, to be one being with all Buddhas, to be equal to all enlightening beings, to purify the practice of all enlightening beings, to fulfill the transcendent ways of enlightening beings, to purify the accomplishment of the vows of all enlightening beings, to attain all enlightening beings' store of mystical power of Buddhas, to be illumined by the endless knowledge of the treasury of truths of all enlightening beings, to approach the treasury of enlightening beings, to produce the infinite treasury of enlightening beings, to realize the ultimate consummation of guidance of sentient beings with the treasury of great compassion of all enlightening beings, to know the treasury of spiritual transformations of all enlightening beings, to command in my own body the treasury of powers of all enlightening beings, to be fully arrayed with the treasury of purities of all enlightening beings. Noble One, I have come in such a spirit, with such desires, such wishes, such intentions, such thoughts uppermost in my mind, aiming for such a realm, determined to follow such principles, intent on such purity, seeking such adornments, with such a humble mind, applied to such good, my faculties oriented in this way. Noble One, I hear you give instructions to enlightening beings, explain principle and clarify procedure, explain the path, take them across the bridge, open the door of the teaching, cut off doubts, dispel craving, pull out the arrow of confusion, clear away the grime of uncertainty, light up the obscurity in the mind, remove defilement from the mind, calm the mental flow, remove deviousness from the mind, cool the fever of the mind, foster non-attachment, turn back the mind revolving in the mundane world, turn enlightening beings away from evil, separate them from hells, free them from attachments, direct them toward omniscience, lead them into the city of truth, establish them in great compassion, settle them in great kindness, introduce them into the practice of enlightening beings, cause them to enter into the development of ways of concentration, establish them in means of realization, fill them with contemplation of inherent nature, and explain mind according to power for the sake of attainment of equanimity toward all beings. Noble One, please tell me how an enlightening being is to learn, commence, and carry out the practice of enlightening beings, and how one so engaged can quickly purify the sphere of practice of enlightening beings. At that juncture Muktaka entered an enlightening concentration medium called Collection of All Buddha Fields, led by a mystic formula of endless progression, accomplishing entry into this concentration by the power of his past roots of goodness, by the empowerment of the Buddha, and by Manjushri's attention and gift of the light of knowledge. As soon as Muktaka had entered that state, his body became pure, and by that purity of body as many Buddhas in the 10 directions as atoms and 10 Buddha lands were visible within his body, along with the adornments of their pure lands, their congregations, their pure lights, their past actions and abodes, their mystical projections, their vows, their pure arrays of liberative practices, their manifestations of attainment of perfect enlightenment, their turnings of the wheel of teaching, their developments of sentient beings, and the ultimate consummation of their teaching. All these were visible within Muktaka's body without mutual confusion, without mutual obstruction, clearly distinct, showing the various individual ages accurately defined, the various arrays of the Buddha lands, the various adornments of the congregations of enlightening beings, and the various miracles of the Buddhas. Some Buddhas were seen to be in the heaven of happiness in a world setting forth various means of liberation and illumining various undertakings. Some were seen descending from the heaven of happiness doing the duty of Buddhas. Some were seen in the womb of the mother displaying various miracles. Some were seen being born and showing a child's play. Some were seen at home, some leaving home, some gone to the summit of enlightenment defeating the army of demons. Some were seen surrounded by deities, spirits, and cherubim, being asked by Brahma and Indra to turn the wheel of the teaching. Some were seen turning the wheel of teaching. Some were seen in the abodes of all beings. Some were seen passing away. In some cases the division of the relics of deceased Buddhas in a world was seen, and in some cases people and celestial beings in a Buddha land were seen adorning a Buddha's shrine. And what those Buddhas said, in various groups of beings, in various beings' worlds, in various realms of existence, in various assemblies of beings, in various situations according to beings' virtues, states, inclinations, beliefs, and faculties, in various periods of time, amid various kinds of beings' activities, in various manifestations of worlds of beings carrying out various intentions, in the midst of beings with various degrees of purity of senses and various afflictions, habits, and propensities, teaching by various manifestations of Buddha's transfigurations and projections, by various expressions, various utterances, various enunciations of doctrine, various mystical mnemonic formulae, various intellectual analyses of principles, various stirrings of the ocean of names of truth, various roarings of the mighty lion's roar of Buddha's various manifestations of magical performances teaching beings bases of goodness, mystic projections showing various facets of memory, various lion roars foretelling the Buddhahood of enlightening beings, various manifestations of the wheel of teaching of the enlightened, in infinite assemblies of infinite varieties, all interdependent, in groups variously purified, in large groups contained in small groups, in groups a league deep, 10 leagues deep, up to groups the size of as many worlds as atoms in untold Buddha fields. All that those Buddhas taught, Sadhana heard, took in, remembered, undertook, and contemplated. He also saw the mystic projection and the inconceivable power of concentration of the enlightening being. Then Muktaka, mindful, perfectly cognizant, arose from that concentration and said to Sadhana, I go in and out of a liberation of Buddhas which is called unobstructed manifestation. As I go in and out of the unobstructed manifestation liberation of Buddhas to the east I see in the world golden light a Buddha named Supreme Savior, along with the whole group of enlightening beings there, led by the enlightening being Child of Radiance. To the south I see in the world possessed of all powers a Buddha named Universal Spread of Fragrance, with the whole group of enlightening beings there, led by King of Thought. To the west I see in the world possessed of all fragrances and beauties a Buddha named Supreme Lamp, with the whole group of enlightening beings there, led by an obstructed mind. To the north I see in the world vestment banner a Buddha named Diamond Crusher, with the whole group of enlightening beings there, led by boldly advancing on indestructible feet. To the northeast I see in the world beauty of all jewels a Buddha named Radiance of the Independent Eye, with the whole group of enlightening beings there, led by independent emanation. To the southeast I see in the world glow of fragrant flames a Buddha named Fragrant Lamp, with the whole group of enlightening beings there, led by supreme intellect differentiating the planes of all realms of reality. To the southwest I see in a world sunny golden shining a Buddha named Illuminating Voice of Universal Knowledge, with the whole group of enlightening beings there, led by Hanging Crest of radiant flowery flames. To the northwest I see in the land brilliant shining treasury with fragrant adornments a Buddha named Light of a measureless ocean of virtue, with the whole group of enlightening beings there, led by mind blazing with light in a body free from attachments. In the nadir I see in the world blaze of lights from jewel lions a Buddha named beam of light illumining the cosmos, with the whole group of enlightening beings there, led by mind born of the light of the cosmos. In the zenith I see in the world radiant with splendor of appearance a Buddha named light of liberation of indestructible virtue and glory, with the whole group of enlightening beings there, led by mind of energy of unobstructed power. Beginning with these, I see as many Buddhas in the 10 directions as atoms in 10 Buddha lands, and yet those Buddhas do not come here and I do not go there. Also, whenever I want to see the Buddha infinite light in the world blissful, I see the Buddha diamond light in the world like sandalwood, I see the Buddha jewel light in the world fragrant, I see the Buddha jewel lotus light in the world lotus-like, I see the Buddha silent light in the world golden, I see the Buddha imperturbed knowledgeable in the world joy, I see the Buddha lion in the world standing well, I see the Buddha moon-like awareness in the world mirror globe light, I see the Buddha luminous in the world pure clarity of jewel-like splendor. In this way I see whatever Buddha I wish in whatever world in whichever direction. I see whatever Buddha I wish to see in whatever time in whatever abode involved in whatever past practice, whatever Buddha I wish to see in whatever miraculous performances, in whatever teaching activity, and yet the Buddhas do not come here, nor do I go there. Without discerning any coming from anywhere on the part of the Buddhas, without discerning any going on the part of my own body, knowing the Buddhas as like a dream, knowing my own mind as dream-like thought, knowing the Buddhas as like a reflection, knowing my own mind as like a vessel of clear water, knowing the Buddhas as like magically produced forms, knowing my mind as like magic, knowing the nature of voices of the Buddhas as the reverberation of the sound of echoes in the mountains, knowing my own mind as like an echo, I realize, I am mindful, that all enlightenment principles of enlightening beings are based on one's own mind, that all their purification of Buddha lands, all enlightening practices, all development and guidance of sentient beings, all undertaking of the vows of enlightening beings, all attainment to the ocean of omniscience, roaming in the inconceivable liberation of enlightening beings, attainment of the enlightenment of Buddha's spiritual communion with the cosmos, and knowledge of subtle communion with all ages, all are based on one's own mind. In this connection, I think that one's own mind should be supported by roots of goodness, moistened by the clouds of the teaching, purified by principles that should be focused on, made firm by vigor, made calm by forbearance, guided by following knowledge, clarified by wisdom, developed in spiritual powers, expanded to equality with the Buddhas, illumined by the 10 powers of the enlightened. I know this Buddha liberation of unobstructed manifestation, and go in and out of it. How can I know the practice or tell of the virtues of enlightening beings whose minds are unobstructed, whose sphere is a state free from obstruction, who have attained concentration focused on the teachings of all Buddhas of the present, who have attained concentration leading into enlightenment that does not become ultimately extinct, who have realized the equality of past, present, and future, who know the science of the sphere of concentration on the continuity of all planes, who distribute their bodies throughout all Buddha lands, who abide in the unfragmented state of Buddhas, whose perspective faces in all directions, who observe the sphere of all-inclusive knowledge, who know the becoming and disintegration of all worlds in their own bodies, without any dualistic notions regarding their bodies or the worlds. Go south, to Malasvarana, on the tip of the continent. A monk named Buddhāvataṃsaka lives there. Go to him and ask how an enlightening being is to learn and undertake the practice of enlightening beings. Then Sadhana, paying his respects to Muktaka, eulogizing, contemplating, desiring, and dwelling on Muktaka's countless virtues, with love for spiritual benefactors, taking refuge in spiritual benefactors, seeking to please spiritual benefactors, not contesting the knowledge of spiritual benefactors, seeing omniscience as realized by following spiritual benefactors, obedient to spiritual benefactors, to be spiritually healed by the techniques of spiritual benefactors, his thoughts following the direction of spiritual benefactors, thinking of spiritual benefactors as a mother, because they get rid of all that is not beneficial, thinking of spiritual benefactors as a father, because they produce all good qualities. Sadhana left Muktaka. Buddhāvataṃsaka. Then Sadhana, reflecting on the instruction of the eminent Muktaka, following Muktaka's direction, remembering the inconceivable liberation of enlightening beings, remembering the inconceivable light of knowledge of enlightening beings, following the inconceivable entrance into the realm of reality, entering into the inconceivable principle of the communion of enlightening beings, observing the inconceivable transformation of those who realize thusness, intent on the inconceivable communion of Buddha fields, clarifying the inconceivable manifestation of the magical power of Buddhas, contemplating the magnificence of the inconceivable order of the concentrations and liberations of enlightening beings, following the steadfast determination to perform the inconceivable work of enlightening beings, conforming to the stream of undertaking of the inconceivable deeds of enlightening beings, gradually proceeded to Milasvarana on the tip of the continent, where he looked all over for the monk Buddhāvataṃsaka. He saw Buddhāvataṃsaka by the side of a place for walking at a retreat, sitting in concentration, following his breath, not stirring, not thinking, his body straight, his mindfulness on the immediate present, by the inconceivable power of concentration producing to the left, right, and above an inconceivable infinite body in each successive mental moment, manifesting an infinite variety of bodies. Sadhana saw an inconceivable miraculous display of the liberation of enlightening beings coming forth from every pore of the ecstatic body of Buddhāvataṃsaka, who had attained such profound tranquility, silence, and objectlessness. With this miraculous display of the medium of liberation, Buddhāvataṃsaka filled the cosmos moment to moment with endless varieties of mystic projections, to perfect all beings, to honor all Buddhas, to purify all Buddha fields, to do away with the mass of suffering of all sentient beings, to cut off the courses of all bad conditions, to open the door to good conditions for all beings, to extinguish the burning of afflictions of all beings, to dissolve all beings' obstructions to knowledge, and to introduce all beings into omniscience. Sadhana saw emanating from the souls of Buddhāvataṃsaka's feet masses of grandees as numerous as atoms in countless Buddha lands, their forms like those of the grandees in all worldly realms, wearing gorgeous clothing, variously adorned, wearing variously crested jewel crowns, surrounded by images of suns. He also saw priests and householders going throughout the 10 directions, caring for the poor with all kinds of food and drink, services, supplies, clothing, flowers, garlands, fragrances, ointments, acts of love, jewels, dwellings, vessels, and implements, restoring life to the miserable world, satisfying sentient beings, purifying sentient beings' minds, developing sentient beings for enlightenment. Sadhana saw forms of warrior sages, priestly sages, worldly sages, scholars versed in various crafts, humanistic scholars, scholars expert in knowledge of the sciences of mundane and transmundane activities, sages considered teachers of the world, emanate from the circles on Sūtra knees and go throughout the 10 directions in many forms and guises, speaking pleasant words, cheering up dejected sentient beings, taking care of spiritually and materially poor beings, comforting beings in distress, uplifting the fallen, reviving the shipwrecked, rescuing the imperiled, causing the voice of goodness to be heard, preaching rejection of evil, exhorting beings to virtuous practices, directing beings to beneficial actions, producing joy, uttering kind words, and showing the world the nature of cooperation. Sadhana saw various forms of wizards, as many as there are living beings, emanating from Sūtra's navel and going throughout the 10 directions, wearing leather, rags, and bark, carrying staffs and pitchers, their deportment extremely calm, up on the sky extolling the qualities of Buddhas, causing the voice of the teaching to be heard, speaking the voice of Buddhas, showing the community of enlightening beings, praising religious conduct, directing sentient beings to guard their senses, describing the meaning of the voidness of intrinsic essence, introducing sentient beings into the meaning of knowledge, teaching worldly science, showing the science of the path to omniscience and emancipation, guiding beings in gradual practice. Sadhana saw as many water spirit girls as all worldly events, in inconceivably many forms, emerging from Sūtra's sides, pervading all universes moment to moment, showing the miracle of water spirits, adorning the sky with inconceivable fragrant clouds, adorning the whole sky with inconceivable clouds of flowers, arraying the whole realm of space with inconceivable adornments of clouds of garlands, covering all universes with inconceivable adornment of bejeweled parasols, adorning the sky with inconceivable clouds of jeweled banners, inconceivable clouds of jeweled pennants, rain from inconceivable endless clouds of great jewels, rain from inconceivable clouds of jewel necklaces and various flowers, inconceivable clouds of jewel seats with enlightening beings sitting on them teaching the ways of enlightenment, inconceivable clouds of truths of celestial jewels, rain of clouds of sounds of goddesses singing praises of the teaching, inconceivable raining clouds of jewel lotuses adorned with nets of pearls crowned with diamonds, inconceivable clouds of jewel crowns and rain of clouds of endless lights adorned by all jewels, inconceivable clouds of celestial beings graced with flowers, garlands, parasols, and banners, inconceivable clouds of goddesses, adornments of rain produced by clouds of songs of praise of Buddha's qualities sung by the goddesses on high standing with joined palms or scattering golden flowers, also covering all Buddha's assemblies with clouds of heaps of fragrances the colors of all jewels and clouds of smoke of the finest incense, adorning all worlds, delighting all beings, honoring all Buddhas. Sadhana saw as many Titan kings as atoms and countless Buddha fields emerging from the auspicious mark on Sūtra's chest and pervading the cosmos moment to moment, displaying the inconceivable magic transformations of Titans, agitating the oceans, causing hundreds of thousands of worlds to quake, causing all the highest mountains to crash together, shaking up all celestial abodes, eclipsing all hordes of demons, crushing all armies of demons, causing all people to destroy intoxication, conceit, and arrogance, restraining and purifying corrupt minds, restraining malicious minds, extinguishing beings' bad qualities, shattering the mountains of afflictions, quieting grasping for pleasure, frightening sentient beings by exercises of titanic magical powers, and scaring them away from evil, making them wary of the mundane world, getting them to leave all states of conditioned existence and enter into non-dwelling, leading sentient beings to the thought of enlightenment, getting them to purify the conduct of enlightening beings, establishing enlightening beings in the transcendent way, causing them to enter the stages of enlightening beings, causing them to produce enlightening beings light of the way to Buddhahood, defining various principles and methods. Sadhana saw as many bodies of Buddhist disciples and individual illuminates as atoms, and countless Buddha fields emerge from Sūtra spine and pervade the cosmos, telling sentient beings attached to self and suited to guidance by disciples or individual illuminates about selflessness and the voidness of the being, clarifying the impermanence of all conditioned states to those attached to eternity, telling the lustful about the contemplation of impurity, telling the hostile about love, telling the deluded about causality and interdependent origination, illumining principles connected with the sphere of knowledge to those who are equally lustful, hostile, and deluded, telling those attached to objects about non-dwelling, causing those inclined to stick to tranquility to like the superiority of undertaking vows, showing actions beneficial to beings, in all places, in the beginning of all turnings of the ocean of ways to truth. Sadhana saw as many demigods and supernatural beings as atoms, and countless Buddha fields emerging from Sūtra's shoulders and pervading the cosmos, with various physical forms, colors, and sizes, in various attitudes, riding various vehicles, surrounded by various retinues, striving to protect sentient beings, showing various powers, uttering various sounds, going everywhere, employing various different means to guard the good actions of all sentient beings, to guard all circles of sages, to assist all enlightening beings, to protect those who are rightly oriented, to attend and honor all Buddhas with the work of thunderbolt bearers, to remove all fallen sentient beings from evil ways, striving to annihilate all worldly calamities and perils such as disease, anxious to preserve the light of actions beneficial to beings, filling the stores of knowledge and virtue, causing the wheel of the teaching to roll along, restraining controversy. Sadhana saw as many centaur chiefs as atoms, and countless Buddha fields surrounded by countless hundreds of thousands of centaur princesses, and as many celestial musician kings as atoms, and countless Buddha fields surrounded by countless hundreds of thousands of celestial musician princesses emerge from Sūtra's abdomen and pervade the cosmos, performing music and songs in praise of Buddha, dealing with the essence of things, illumining the thought of enlightenment, describing the conduct of enlightening beings, eulogizing all ways to attainment of enlightenment, fostering understanding of all ways of presenting the teaching, causing attraction to all ways of spiritual transformation, illumining all ways into ultimate release, publicizing all Buddha's teachings, gladdening all beings, purifying all Buddha fields, illuminating all ways to truth, removing all obstructions, begetting all roots of goodness. Sadhana saw as many emperors as atoms, and countless Buddha fields, each surrounded by 7 treasures and 4 armies, emerge from Sūtra's face, pervading the cosmos, radiating arrays of light beams of great relinquishment, spewing forth masses of all kinds of jewels, distributing multitudes of all kinds of jewels, enriching the poor, causing people to desist from killing, fostering kindness in sentient beings, causing them to give up stealing, giving them countless beautifully adorned maidens, causing them to give up sexual misconduct, establishing them in chastity, causing them to desist from lying, enjoining on them supreme honesty, causing them to desist from slander, causing them to speak words of ultimate kindness and consideration, causing them to desist from harsh words and speak pleasantly, causing people to desist from all meaningless statements, statements connected with what is not beneficial and what is not right, urging them to certainty of distinction of statements of profound meaning, causing people to desist from all evils of speech and speak compassionately, removing mental defilements from people, enjoining the excellent state of having few desires and being content, causing people to desist from malice and urging them to be peaceful in their relations with others, extracting people from the web of all views, causing them to break up all kinds of uncertainties, throwing off all masses of doubts, taking away the darkness of all confusion and hesitation, definitively analyzing the truth for people, telling them about causality and interdependent origination, directing them to the principle of the truth about inherent existence, dispelling all obstacles, leading into the way of non-obstruction, illuminating the meaning of enlightenment. Continue to video 9.